You're listening to the Fooled by the Root podcast.
This is your host, Heidi Marble. I am thrilled to be able to share this gifted series episode with the amazing Myles Redfern. Myles was one of my first podcast guests, and we've remained connected since that time. She is a slam poet. She writes with vibrancy and truth, and her metaphors just twist around your mind and make you think of things differently. She is really in touch with who she is and what she wants for her life. She offers our adopted community a big shout out to remain strong and to keep going. This episode is indeed a gift. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Heidi Marble. Oh, my goodness. It's a really great day for me because Myles Redfern is back for her second episode. Myles was one of the first people I interviewed for the podcast, and this young, brilliant writer, she gets me every time. And about a week ago, I get a ding on my phone, and she sent me a new poem called Act of Betrayal. Well, I had a few tears over it. So we talked and decided it would be amazing to do a follow-up episode with Myles, hear her poem, and really learn more about where she's at. So I'm so glad you're back, Myles.
I'm back.
What can you tell us? Based on our conversation the other day, it just felt like you went through a growth spurt. And I know I'm going through one too, even at my old age. Just all this information and all the stories that are coming in, it's really changing me. Can you give us an idea of where you're at in terms of adoption and self-discovery since the last time we spoke?
Well, in terms of self-discovery, I think I've definitely discovered my interests more and sort of my spectrum of what can I do, where do my skills lie, and where am I content? Because, when I did my first episode, I was just beginning my independent study program, which was kind of a weird branch off from public school. And, several months later, I just finished my portion of writing with Anne. And my mental health is better than ever. I've got much more of a sense of clarity on my preferences. What do I like doing? How do I keep myself in the green zone and out of the yellow and red zone? And then adoption wise, I've just met so many new adoptees, thanks to Anne. Once again, all credit goes to her for that. And, I've just talked to so many interesting people, and all of our stories are so different, but we all have that similar grounding piece where it's like that old Roman method to draw a circle where you drive a stake into the ground and take either one piece of string or two, and then you draw them, fully extended around either side. I think that adoptees are sort of like that. And just talking to so many new people has helped me realize that, and that, I was one of the best case scenarios, and, I'm so lucky to be where I am.
Yes. And I think what's so encouraging to me is to see self-awareness at such a young age. It gives me a lot of hope. So can we just dive right into this poem? I think there is so much here to talk about. Why don't you just read it to us? And then we're just going to dissect it because, girl, there's some stuff here that I want to drill down on. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, just a little bit of background on this. Very true to my own form. This was written at 10:30 at night in the passenger seat of my mother's car, driving home from a beach day with my friends. Just we had been having casual conversation in the car because one thing that Mom and I do when it's just us is we'll talk about adoption. I'll just kind of vent to her, and then she'll explain her side. I'll explain my side, and we'll try and help each other understand each point of view. And she'll give me information that I didn't have before, and then I'll explain how I feel about that. And, I was just kind of venting, and then my mom stops me and she says, that was a really great line you just said. And the line that I said specifically was, the first act in my very short life was an act of betrayal. And, she had me write that down, and she's like, you could write a poem about that, like what you did the first time. And so I did. And in 15 minutes, I wrote, I'd say probably 10 verses of a poem. And this is completely unedited. This is raw. I have not looked at this since I sent it to you, Heidi. So let's fingers crossed that I read this right. I haven't practiced.
I am not even slightly concerned.
Okay. Act of betrayal. Betrayal. sometimes from a friend, a knife to the back or a cutlass to the throat, a family member who holds a disdain or a distaste or just disloyalty. It happens sometime in life as a child, as an adolescent, as an adult, or at any time, but not me. I wasn't betrayed in childhood and adolescence, and certainly not adulthood. My life came to a screeching halt only minutes after birth because the first event in my short life was an act of betrayal. An apple picked before it ripened, a surfboard gliding on low tide, a starlit sky covered by smog, a child ripped from her mother's arms. I was broken before I was built, and it took an army to build the village that raised me, and my shattered pieces were rebuilt by a soft silken glove and a hardened iron fist, and I was rebuilt strong. The silken iron created a leather glove, the leather glove I wear so I may never cut myself, never draw blood, never find myself among my own shattered pieces. And with this leather glove, I can rebuild myself if I am broken, because the sharpest glass cannot pierce leather built from betrayal.
Hearing you read it in your voice, it's so moving and so deep. There's so much imagery there.
I'm torn between blushing and crying.
That's okay, me too. Same.
Kitchen floor with tissues, part 2.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I've got my tissues and lots of flooring, so I think we're good.
I meant to ask beforehand.
Let's start from the beginning. Can you read the first line to me again, please?
Betrayal. Sometimes from a friend, a knife to the back or a cutlass to the throat. That's just sort of an opening to what betrayal is. You say what it is. This poem, I say the first thing that comes to mind, this poem is about betrayal, therefore first line, betrayal. And, naturally, you're going to describe that feeling. You want someone to have in their head what that feels like. If someone, runs up behind you, grand jump, slams a knife into your back, or, picture a pirate running at you, holding them to your chest with this big old blade against your throat. That's exactly what it feels like, because you're powerless. When someone betrays you, you've trusted them with just some sort of information or some sort of, it could be an object, it could be a secret, it could be a story that you really didn't trust anyone else with. And then you wind up with that, sword to your throat, and you realize, I can't get out of this. There's no way I have any control in this situation, and I feel betrayed.
Yes, let's just keep going down, because I want to get behind the scenes in your mind. If you don't mind, let's just keep reading the poem and commenting. I love
me like a frog. I have no issue with that. But I'm here. The next line is a family member who holds a disdain or a distaste or just disloyalty. One constant theme that I've seen among so many people that I know, whether that be adoptees or people who live with their biological family or people who've had their parents die, and also people who live with their families and their families are constantly against them. Like, I have so many friends whose parents refuse to, accept them for being, gay or bi or not being Christian, maybe being pagan or Jewish or Muslim or whatever. And their family does not accept them for that. And, disdain, distaste, disloyalty, whether that be through jealousy or just lack of respect, that's one's just to say, not just a friend or colleague can betray you, even the people closest to you, by blood or not, will betray you or can betray you, I guess. And, it hurts just as much from those people, because they're the core to all of your secrets and your memories and, all of the things that you hold dear to yourself, because they are the next step from you. And, they generally tend to have access during the younger years of your life, and you don't really have any privacy in that department if your parents are invasive like that. I'm lucky that my parents aren't. But, so many people have that invasive, looming family that, doesn't give them any freedom. And then when, they finally branch out, trust their family to, hey, I've got this big thing, and, it's really hard for me to come out and tell you this. And then the family immediately rejects it, or, cuts you off or shuts you up, or just completely denies that anything you've done has happened. It's like that cutlass to the throat. Once again, you're powerless.
So beautifully spoken, Myles. And I think if we're going to change anything, especially in terms of the adoption narrative, it's really getting that bridge to connect between what this feels like. And I think the fact that you're able to draw those comparisons so that people can really understand the depth of betrayal felt, especially at such a young and innocent age. And I know we're going to get to that as we keep going down. Okay, hit me with the next thought.
Real quick, something I want people that are listening to know is that I haven't thought about this beforehand. I have not reversed, or I haven't rehearsed. This is raw. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is just coming out of my brain right this second. So you're going to have to bear with me if I start stuttering. So just keeping it real.
You're doing a great job. And I think that's what is important to me, is that the conversations are real and straight from the heart and not packaged and sterilized.
Yeah, we don't need that processed garbage in here. Get out of here.
No, we're organic. Oh gosh, well, the disdain. Wow, that's a word for you too. Just your word choices are really revelatory.
That was me just toying with alliteration a little bit because I'm jazzy like that.
Yeah, you are jazzy like that. So what's the next line?
It happens sometimes in life as a child, as an adolescent, or as an adult, or at any time. So that's just exactly what it sounds like. It can happen at any point in your life. Once again, no control, powerless, betrayal. And then the next bit right under that is, but not me. So, because most people have experiences where, maybe say in kindergarten, you're 5 years old, you're a toddler, you're a kid, and you tell your secret crush to your best friend. And then you find out a day later that your best friend has told your crush that you like them, and you are just wrecked. You are so upset. You are mad. You're like, I never want to speak to you again. And then you've got your adolescence, where as a teenager, I'll just use this one because this happened to me almost. You come out as gay to someone, and you trust them with the secret. You're not ready to come out to other people. And then they go and tell someone, they out you to someone, and you're furious. You're pissed. I trusted you with this information. And then adulthood, someone steals your identity. Someone abuses you, like an old friend, starts beating you up or something, or someone's emotionally manipulating you, and you're like, I never thought someone would do that. It comes in all varying degrees, but it can happen at any stage of life. And the but not me is a segue into the next bit, which says, I wasn't betrayed in childhood and adolescence, and certainly not adulthood. I was betrayed as a baby. And one of the only times that a baby is betrayed is when the parent either tries to murder their child after birth, which has happened, or putting your child up for adoption because maybe it's out of, the kindness of your heart that you're trying to give your child a better life. But biologically speaking, it is still betrayal, because your biological reaction to being separated from your mother is your biological mother leaving you for dead, which is really harsh, but I can't phrase that any differently.
It's true, Myles. And I think that telling the truth is very important, because what I'm learning, and it sounds like you are too, is that what we're told about adoption, the vulnerable parties who are the birth mother in crisis, the baby who's in the middle, an adopted family who wants to build a family, these are vulnerable parties.
Well, yeah, because there's the entire thing about adoption, not only is the biological betrayal, but the unintentional disconnect, because it's so the baby and the mother, say there's a red string between the two. When a child is adopted, that string is cut. The adoptive family say they have a blue string. You're trying to tie a red string to a blue string, which they're not going to look compatible. And it's going to be obvious. It's going to be there that, I'm not biologically related to these people. And I know that, and it hurts. And, it doesn't look normal. And, society will see that, a red string shouldn't be with a blue string, or that just looks weird. That's not right. And, it's going to get to you. And I feel like a whole part of that is that the disconnect is what we tend to focus on. Mm. We can never find out that we just tied a knot with two strings that shouldn't have been together in the first place, and we made it work.
That I've never heard it described like that.
I didn't expect myself to describe it like that either. It just came out.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm really not surprised. I just love how your mind works. It is a really hard thing to think about, because I don't think that anyone is trying to intentionally hurt anyone, but that does not discount what you're saying, the biological severance. And then the way that things are set up, making it very hard to find identity. And it sounds like the openness in your relationship with your family is really providing space for you to explore all of these subjects in a safe zone. And so many adoptees don't have that. So I have to say we're a little jealous of you in that regard.
I'm very lucky.
No, I'm just teasing. I'm not trying to downplay it.
No, it's not downplaying at all. I completely understand. A lot of my adoptee friends don't have any openness with their parents. I got lucky in that department. I get to know whatever I want to know.
Yeah. And how has that helped you? What can you say to maybe adoptive parents who are listening and trying to educate themselves on the adoptee experience?
Your child is always going to have an angry reaction, no matter what you tell them, when you tell them. Your kid's always going to have an angry reaction. Or not necessarily angry, more adverse. Because I just remember my parents, they wouldn't really tell me much about my biological mom at first because they didn't want me to have the wrong image of her. And so they kind of played up her image a little bit. And then, when I'm 14, 15-ish, I find out that she's not that great of a person. Like, I hope she's not hearing this. But she, just what we've seen from, earlier in my life, she was not that good of a person. She didn't do much. She drank a lot. She probably did a lot of drugs. And we have a letter from my aunt saying she did not parent my biological brother very well. Like, she put him in front of the TV and had him fall asleep there. And, I was a little pissed that they wouldn't tell me that at first. Otherwise, I wouldn't be like, I'm so excited to meet my birth mother. Because I'm like, okay, I'm a little more tentative about this now. And I had a very strong reaction. I never want to speak to this woman. I never want to talk to her. I don't want to meet her. I don't want a relationship with her. And I was in that state of mind when we first did the podcast. And as of now, I'm much more in a clear state of mind to say, okay, I don't want to burn any bridges. But now that I've had the time to think about it and the support from my parents and my therapist to help me kind of consider, the possible outcomes of this situation, I've decided, okay, why don't I reach out when I'm 18? I'm an adult, so that way I'll be able to make this decision on my own with a clear head. Give it a year. Reach out to her, say, hey, if you want to contact me, you can call me, you can write me a letter, and we can set up a time to meet in person. I'd like to meet you. And just kind of, I want to see that my only real objective is to meet her, just have that checked off my bucket list, to confirm that her life is fulfilled. She's living the life that she wants to live. I want to see that she's happy, that she's content, and that having adopted me out isn't destroying her life. There's nothing I can do about that if it is, but I want to be able to support her if it is, and to be happy for her if it isn't. And I think that's a big part of the maturing aspect of, I was given this information and I had such a strong, harsh reaction to that. And if you're getting that information as an adult, you're going to make that decision a lot brasher, because as an adult, you're less likely to be open to making new decisions and changing your opinion. And so just give your kids the information as they ask for it, and then some.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is done in a protective mode.
I do think that is a big part of it. And it's good that you are protective of your child, but the big part is you are going to be overprotective if you're an adoptive parent. Like, that's just a constant that I've seen. And you need to think of what keeps my child safe and what keeps my child from making a brash action that could potentially burn a bridge, hurt them, or screw up a relationship between either me and my child, or my child and their adoptive or and their biological parent, that they may have wanted for a long time. It really is a talk to your communication. It's a huge thing. Talk to your kid. How much do you want to know? What do you want to know about your biological parents? How can I help you process this information? Because my mom will give me information as I ask for it. And then I'll tell you, okay, that's enough. I can't take any more today. Thank you for telling me. Just keep it open, keep it gentle, and keep it suggestive.
Yeah, and I think that's great, is to know how much you can digest at one time. I'm sure you've heard of the ghost kingdom. A lot of adoptees, as a mechanism of just, imagination or survival, will imagine their birth parents in such a way, like they're queens and kings, and, the fantasy of what it is. So I think what's underlying
the reality hits.
The truth is that you're most likely going to find a difficult story. and that you have to brace yourself as you are for an outcome that might not be fantastic. Yeah. And so it is a difficult truth, but I think what you're saying, Myles, is that the truth is, it's important.
The truth is like a diamond. It's very rare, but very precious.
Even if it hurts. And yeah, it's definitely, that is a tough one. Thank you for your thoughts on that. So I don't know where we left off in the poem. Help me, girl.
I have it.
Okay. Cool.
So the next verse is what we were just talking about. My life came to a screeching halt only minutes after birth because the first event in my short life was an act of betrayal. What we just mentioned, the innate betrayal of a biological mother to her child, like a doe leaving their fawn just born with a broken leg to die because the fawn with the broken leg will not be able to walk and will slow them down in the case of a predator.
Yes. And how would you answer somebody who comes and says, well, this was supposed to be of a benefit, saving you, not betraying you? You know, that there's a lot of pushback.
There is a strong difference between a psychological intent and a physical reaction. Physical stress and mental stress, they're very different things. Mental stress causes your body to shut down, your mind will go fuzzy, and you won't be able to think straight, and you'll either make no decisions or stupid decisions. And physically, you'll pull a muscle, you'll break a bone, you'll sprain a wrist, and it will physically debilitate you. They both are astronomically screwing you up. The difference between the mental and the physical is that the mental is conscious. You're thinking about this. I'm aware that this is going to cause pain. I know this is going to hurt, but this is going to help in the long term. I feel that this is the best option for the long term. The physical reaction is always betrayal because you're being ripped. You know, the scent, a baby can tell its mother's scent, and the baby will have an adverse reaction and will not be able to calm down for days on end. I was like that. You know, over time, the muscle does heal. Your brain does calm down when you're stressed. You're able to get some sleep, or you get a cast for your arm. The adoptive family is sort of like that rest and that cast, that it helps you set yourself back into place. That injury will always be there, or there'll be a remnant, or there'll be a memory of that injury, but you found a way to heal. And that's what that is. That's like when another animal will take in a stranded baby, because that happens in the wild much more than you think.
Yeah, very, very well said. And I think it puts some context around it so people can understand this is not just something being passed. It's a human being that is being transferred out of a place that it was safe and into something different. It's very difficult.
As a human, our complex thought is, you know, much more dangerous for us, however useful, much more dangerous for us than an animal. This next line is just a lot of like similes and metaphors. Just an apple picked before it ripened, a surfboard gliding on low tide, a starlit sky covered by smog, a child ripped from her mother's arms. So it's a good thing with a bad cover. So an apple picked before it ripened, you know, you pick it, it's not ripe, and then it rots before it ripens. Or, you know, a surfboard gliding on low tide. Low tide, you don't have good waves. It just kind of bloop, bloop, bloop. This is the best sound effect I can give that.
I like
a starlit sky covered by smog. That's my favorite one, because so many places, like LA, for example, there's light ambience and there's smog, and you cannot see the sky for the life of you. But somewhere else, it's going to blow over, and you're going to see it clearly. And that's exactly what that's like. You have that cover of betrayal, but once you get beyond that, or once the tide rises, then you get those big waves and you're surfing like hell.
Beautiful.
I just think that's just a little 10 o'clock at night metaphor that I have.
Well, and I think it's really helpful to think about things. I'm a very visual person too, and being able to imagine that it's really lovely.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of adoptees tend to be visual learners or hands-on learners rather than auditory.
Yeah.
So because I want to be able to picture things myself, so I try and project that so that other people can understand that. And not just like the what does it feel like? It feels like fireworks. Yeah, you don't know what a firework feels like, because if you touch one, you're gonna die. You're gonna have like something that you have done before, that you might do, or that you've seen someone do.
Yes, thank you for building that out for us.
And then so the next line is, I was broken before I was built, and it took an army to build the village that raised me. So that's sort of like a play before, like a play on the, it took a village to raise such a person, which it did. It really did. Because I have such a great support system of friends and family that have like always been my circle. But then it took a village to build that up because but behind my adoptive parents who raised me to be the person I am, thank God. There's the biological family behind that took the biological creation, but the psychological creation took the adoptive parents and then the therapist that they helped me get. And then my friends who were willing to listen and understand and like be supportive of me if I was having like a breakdown or if I had a panic attack or if I was ever having some sort of just absolute shutdown, my friends would be there to quite literally pick me up because, I wound up on my knees in the school bathroom during gym once just because I kept messing up and I went into the spiral of I'm a failure. And I had all these people backing me up. And it takes a village, it takes an army to build the village. Layers upon layers upon layers. That's kind of an iffy one, but it sounded cool, so I wrote it down. And then the next line is, my shattered pieces were rebuilt by a soft silken glove and a hardened iron fist, and I was rebuilt strong. So, it's like the Japanese art of repairing pottery with gold and platinum and different materials. You smash the pot, you got pieces everywhere. And so this is a metaphor for my parents. So the soft silken glove is my mother. She's always been very gentle with me, no matter how much of a hard ass she is under the surface. I mean, she's awesome. She's a lawyer. She's got this like tough demeanor. She looks good. She's pristine. She does her job and she does her job well. But she's always very gentle with me. If she yells at me or gets angry, which, all of our family does, we all have anger issues. My mom will apologize. She's always the first to apologize. And I try and meet her at that same level, but she's always been better at that than me. And she's always gentle. She'll wake me up with like a head caress or like a back scratch or something. And she'll talk to me gently. And she'll always just be very calm. She's very open. She's very soft. And then my dad is that iron fist because he and I have had a strained relationship for a while because it's a fathers and daughters thing. We're always butting heads. We have different views on a lot of things. And he rolls with an iron fist. And he's got a very tough demeanor. And I think he does struggle with, processing emotions correctly and, taking in information or hard information or uncomfortable information even. But he's always very strict and straightforward. And I do appreciate that about him so much because it helps keep me on track. It keeps me in line. And so I have the leniency of the silken glove where it's soft. It's a comfort system. It's emotionally bracing. And then I've got the iron fist, which helps keep me in line, helps keep me focused and like motivated and ready to go. And it keeps me very on my toes, I guess. And, it helps me get the best of be gentle, but firm kind of a thing. And that's just like a little play on, I was raised by the best possible combination of people that I could have gotten.
Yes, it's wonderful to be bookended by that and be able to extract the good from each of those scenarios for sure.
Best of both worlds, literally.
Yes, and the way that you're able to process that and identify it as, something that's strengthening you and comforting you.
Yeah. And then the line after that is the silk and the iron created a leather glove. So silk and iron are in no way related, but a leather glove, I feel like, is a perfect mixture between like a medieval knight's gauntlet and like a lady's dainty silken glove. Like that's the lady would wear the glove to go to tea. The knight would wear the thing to go to battle. And maybe a rogue or a ranger would wear a leather glove to protect their hands from anything sharp while they're firing arrows or hunting or capturing bounty or whatever. Just sort of like a little medieval play on there. And, a leather glove is used as like a gentle protectant. It's a gentle guard. It's not like, I need to break something with my fist and it's not going to tear at the slightest needle prick. And so, the next line down there is the leather glove I wear so I may never cut myself, never draw blood, never find myself among my own shattered pieces. Because I've had so many times where I have literally shattered myself. Like I've just been so low at different points and so broken. It's been awful. And I had some really bad rough patches. And learning that I didn't need to be as flexible and soft as my mother's silken glove, because that's always gotten me torn up. And I realized I need to take stuff from my dad. I don't need to be as solid as him, but I need to have a guard up. I need to be able to protect myself and be conscious, but I don't need to have a wall up that's like so big that I can't let anybody in. It's a flexible material, but you can't pierce it easily. It's like an adoptee's trust. You have to get yourself into that point where you're not so gullible that you'll accept what anyone tells you, but you're not so hardened that you have trust issues and you block everybody out. You need to have that little bit of pliability, but also have a guard. Last one is, and with this leather glove, I can rebuild myself if I am broken, because the sharpest glass cannot pierce leather built from betrayal. So that's my favorite line. The sharpest glass cannot pierce leather built from betrayal. Because I've just found recently that the metaphorical, I guess, leather glove that I wear has kept me so much happier in the past, 2 years that I've been metaphorically wearing it. Because I started getting therapy by someone who adopted kids 2 years ago, and I recently ended my sessions with her. But, just learning how to be flexible with people, trust people in my own time. I don't need to trust people right off the bat because I'm a good person. And I don't need to push people away because I need to protect myself. And the sharpest glass is sort of a play on an incident that happened to me a little while ago. I won't bore you with the details, but my ex-friend, who I had been close with for a really long time, had just kind of shut down on me. And I tried to be there for her. And then, every time I text her, she'd curse me out. And then she'd get pissed when I wouldn't text her. And that's kind of the sharpest glass. And I realized, you know what? I trusted you once and I gave you so much of my support. And while you used it in that time, I feel like things have turned around for you. And I'm not going to take the sharp things that you're throwing at me anymore. I'm done. And so that's sort of okay, here's the boundary. I'm pressing back a little bit. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to shut myself off, but I need you to stop, kind of a thing. And that's sort of the advantage of the leather glove. I guess you can pick up glass with it without breaking the seal of it. Maybe you'll get a scratch or two, but you're not going to break the glove.
Gosh, I love the metaphors and thinking about the flexibility and the strength of leather to survive in these adopted bodies we have been given to deal with. And it's stunning to me, Myles, that you have all this wisdom packed into 17 years. That's a whole nother.
It's shocking to me too. I'm literally surprising myself with this. I'm surprising myself so much.
I'm so glad that you are, because it means the hard work that you've been doing and the self-exploration is bubbling up and coming out of you in these incredible ways. And I'd really like for you to speak to our audience about how you've come to the place where you have this strong flexibility, where you're protected from the sharpest edges. What if they don't have a village? I always say, find a way to express yourself if you can. Find a way to connect to community if you can. If you don't have people who are willing to listen, find those people. But there's really not an easy answer. I don't know what you would want to speak to them as far as hope is concerned, because you talk about your low parts, that you've been there. You've been at rock bottom and you built yourself.
I've been
back.
below rock bottom. It's not fun. It is not fun. No, I've been knee deep in that core kind of lava. It's not a pretty sight. But on the topic of the village, on how not everybody has a village, think about this. Not every village is the same. Once upon a time, Washington, D.C. was a village, and now it's the capital of the United States. But then in California, there's a little town called Harmony, and it has the total population of 8 people. I have been there. It is an art town, a hippie town, and it is some of the most beautiful blown glass I have ever seen. It's like a tourist town, and there are 8 people that live there. It's booming, it's going, and it's beautiful. And then there's Washington, D.C. It runs the country. They each have their own importance. They each have completely different motives, different looks, different energies, and they're on opposite sides of the country. Your village could be you. Your village could be you yourself. Your army could be a notebook that you write all of your feelings into. It's a layer of support. You have your village. That is your stabilizing part. That is you and whatever else that is constant in your life that helps you keep yourself grounded. That's where your town hall is. That's where you've got your well and your forges and all that stuff that you use to build yourself up. Your army is your defense system, the people that come in to keep you safe. They'll maybe come in and repair something if you can't do it yourself, or maybe they'll, gun down a wall of enemies that's charging at you. It varies from person to person. Mine just tends to be the most generic part of it, where I've got my family and friends, and then I've got my therapist. It's like a whole, it's a layer. It really depends on who you are, what life circumstance you have. And also, here's an offer. Check out my Instagram, and you can feel free to DM me if you need an extra army person. So I got you. It's just my name.
I love it, Myles. And as we begin to wrap up this beautiful package of an episode,
the little bow on it,
Oh, such a leather bow. I think it's a leather bow.
Yeah, man, gold glitter bow. You need a little bit of sparkle.
We can add sparkles.
Maybe a little gold embellishment around the wrist. Who knows?
Yes. I love it. Writing is clearly a gift for you. It's another way for you to use your voice. Can you tell me what it has meant to you to be able to express and develop this gift and this talent? Because it is extraordinary.
Well, writing has sort of become my life at this point, because I took an alternative schooling route to pursue writing. I went from public school to independent study so I could pursue writing. And I've always found that it's going to be the thing that everybody says, where you can pour your heart and soul into writing, but I truly mean I pour my heart and soul into my writing, because it's not about the editing or how it sounds perfect. Because I know that the way I read that was off. It was all over the place. There was no beat to it, but it was aggressive. And that's what I wanted to convey. I didn't need to sound good. I needed you to hear how aggressive I was, how pissed I was, how sad and hurt I was, and that I felt betrayed. This is in my head. This is what I saw. This is my experience. And I want you to feel this in your very soul. And being able to, you can't walk up to a random person and start yelling your feelings at them. But with writing, you treat that paper like you're screaming at someone. If you have to scream it out loud, do it. But the page or the pencil or whatever you're going to use to project your anger or emotion, or if it's music, use your fingers angrily on the strings of your guitar or your piano. Treat whatever you're using to get your emotions out as a person, because then you'll feel like you're venting to someone and it's coming out artistically, and it might sound great. It might sound like a bunch of childish gobbledygook, but it's coming out, and it's coming out right. On my terms entirely. I'm not doing this for anyone but me. If I can help people with what I'm doing for myself, awesome. If not, I'm helping myself anyways.
I think the thing with it is access. If you have that thing you can go to 24/7 that's available to you to be able to express something. And I think a lot of times when people are down and they're low and they're depressed, it's really hard to be creative. It's hard to write. It's hard to move that energy and dislodge it when you're so pushed down. But I also want to believe that those times of darkness are a time of growth as well. And what do you think about that when you hit, I'm sure like all creatives, you hit that wall where you're just like, nothing. I got nothing right now. How do you feel about those spaces where it's just inertia?
It's like the writer's block kind of a thing, where there's nothing coming up. I had about 3 months worth of writer block between the poems that I wrote. After writing the one that I did for the first episode, those 3 were it. That was it. And this is the 4th one that I've written. I mean, I just had nothing. I had no exposure to anything that would bring up these emotions in me, because I hadn't really gone anywhere or done anything private, or, I had like a routine that happened and nothing changed. The environment around me was the same. And I never was exposed to anything that could affect my calm state of mind or my sort of like straightforward, straight line. And that caused my creative process to get blocked. And what I've discovered is, ironically enough, playing Dungeons and Dragons and creating characters, is that if you have a writer's block, it does not fucking matter. Pardon my language. It does not fucking matter. You see that writer's block, you turn around, you go find the nearest town, grab a crowbar and start hacking, or climb over it, or walk around it, or dig under it, or do whatever the heck you need to do to get around it. Because a block is created by you. Like, there is always a way around it. It does not matter if what you're next writing is like a weird dream journal where it's just word after word after word. If it's bland, great. You wrote something, I'm proud of you. If it's some sort of Shakespeare poetic masterpiece, I'm proud of you. Great. Keep going. It's quite literally, it's all in your head. I've just discovered that because I used to get so mad when I couldn't write something. I realized, it's going to sound like shit, but I'll still try and write something. I'm writing a book right now. I'll delete pages after writing it. I'm like, I'm starting this again. We're doing this again. Let's go. Starting at the beginning.
That is some truth telling right there. And Myles, as we head off into the sunset, if you will, is there anything else that you wanted to convey in this interview, or any thoughts that you'd like to share that we didn't cover?
Just a quick little snippet of one thing that I've seen among all adoptees that Heidi, you and I had talked about previously was victimization. So we are all victims. We're all victims of a heinous crime, a heinous biological crime. But one thing we need to realize is it's a very harsh reality. If we self-victimize, we're going to get in over our heads, and you're not getting out once you self-victimize yourself. You're a victim as an adoptee. It's just part of life. But you need to accept that that's not your only quality. The only part of your adoption is not being a victim. You are a warrior because you have fought your way through. You are still alive and you are kicking. You are kicking, you are hauling ass, and you are doing something with your life. It doesn't matter if you're breathing, or if you're waiting to watch the next season of your favorite TV show, or you're writing poems to read on a podcast. It does not matter. You are doing something. You are fighting for your life. And if you refuse to accept that there is more to you than being an adoptee, and that there is always some part of you that sets you apart from everybody else, then you're self-victimizing yourself, and that's absolutely detrimental. I was in that phase for a really long time that, I'm a failure. I can't do anything because my first family didn't want me. Why would my second one want me? And then I realized, I want me. I'm not a victim. I can do cool stuff on my own. We just need to get ourselves out of that mindset. And once again, I'll probably ask Heidi to leave my Instagram in the description of her podcast in case anyone needs to reach out and talk, because I'm a chatty person. If you need a support system, I'm here. I'm always available to talk.
Well, Myles, that was just a perfect way to end things. And I just want to thank you so much for being part of our podcast.
Thanks for having my chatty self back.
Just the contribution that you've made, the questions that you're asking with your poetry, the way that you are viewing the world at such a young age. I can't wait to see what loving yourself looks like.
One thing that I think just a brief thing that I think has definitely changed from my last is not only have I gotten a year older, I've gone from asking who am I to I am a badass. I am cool, I am adopted, and I know who the fuck I am. Maybe I don't know exactly what, but I know who. I am awesome. Get yourself into that mindset. Stop asking who you are and figure it out.
I love it.
Do something that makes you happy, and that's who you are.